Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is just going to be a quick overview of the planners that I've used in 2023, what's worked, what's not worked, what I've stayed in all year and what I've dipped in and out of. First up, I figured we would talk about a planner that doesn't really get much love on here, which I will change going forward because I can definitely see that rings are finally having a bit of a resurgence in the planner world. So this is the Halifax Personal in Burnt Orange. I have this year also used a Malden and a Finsbury, both in personal, but I always come back to the original because the setup of this planner is beautiful. It's very simple, not a million amount of pockets, but most importantly, lace flat. I need that in a planner. The Finsbury was beautiful, but like every time I opened it, it was kind of like that, and just using it became annoying. So yeah, I moved back into the original. This planner, I will do a separate video on it with kind of a full setup because, like I say, it's not had much love on this channel. I think the last setup video on my Halifax was a couple of years ago, but essentially this is my reference planner. So anything that I may need to know or refer to for longer than a year, so you know, shop notes around, I know, cutting settings for my silhouette or certain paper manufacturers that I've tried, things like that, live in here because I don't want to have to rewrite that information or remember which planner it's been written in. And yeah, knowing that I only have one place to look for, you know, any of that kind of longer term information is ideal. And yeah, I wouldn't be without this. I also have a perpetual calendar, just where I put, again, things that are kind of permanent reference items, so birthdays, anniversaries, just so that when I'm setting up my month, I can just refer to this rather than having to set up a whole year's worth of monthlies in my planner at one time. So I don't want to, you know, as part of moving into the Hobonichi Weeks next year, I don't want to sit and go through and put all of this in. I want to do it kind of a month or two in advance, so having it in one location means I can do that. These are inserts that I just purchased on Etsy, which I will leave a link to because they are really easy to use and perfect for this use. And yeah, there's other bits and pieces. Again, like I say, it's reference, so you know, some finance bits, some things around accounts and account details, and there's kind of a few empty pages for any other notes, or there's some project planning inserts that I have bought in the past. So if there is, you know, a big house project or something, or a big shop project that I want to do, these are quite handy inserts for that. Again, I'll leave a link to those below because one of my favourite shops for inserts, UK based. And then I just have, you know, things like loyalty cards, because I seem to have about 1 million of them that I don't necessarily need to carry. A lot of them are digital now. And that's really it for the Halifax. Like I say, if you are interested in more of a deep dive, there will be a full setup video coming in the next couple of weeks. Next up, we have the Hobonichi Cousin. There are a lot of videos on this channel about this setup, so I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on it because there's a whole playlist of Hobonichi Cousin. But just to give you a quick overview of how I've used this planner for this year, this has basically been part commonplace book. So various different notes on, it might be holiday planning, it might be shop planning, you know, anything and everything lives in here, but then also my scrapbook as well. And that's why it has ended up very chunky for the year, to the point where I'm not really using it too much for the rest of this year other than for my scrapbooking, because I do want to keep the whole year together. But the monthlies I've used primarily for social media and YouTube planning. I find the layout works really well for that, of just, you know, so I can see at a glance what needs to go live and when. I was also using these pages to kind of just as a bit of a record for any new releases. So anything that launched in that particular month, you know, whether it's some kits, I used one of them, or if it was other kind of stickers, I just kind of stuck them on there. I quite like this, and I do want to get back to doing it because I think it's quite nice to look through and kind of go, oh yeah, that was the month that I released that kit. I've kind of just gone back to more simple planning for kind of the second half of the year. The blank pages are when I was in my bullet journal, which I will talk about later. The weekly pages I haven't used loads of. They were more kind of creative outlet pages, so if there's a week I just felt like, you know, doing a bit of a pretty layout, using up my stickers, because I do have a lot that I barely use anymore. yeah, that's what I used these pages for. As the year went on, I did that less and less because I ran out of time, really. Yeah, nice to flick through, but yeah, it starts to get into some empty pages. Okay, so on to the daily pages, and this bit is a little bit trickier to flip through because I don't want to accidentally kind of show a load of pictures of my friends who won't necessarily want to be featured on my YouTube channel. But this is half commonplacing, and by commonplacing I just mean anything and everything goes in here. So from, you know, YouTube ideas or Instagram ideas to full-on shop or holiday planning to literally just a pen test page lives in here. And then there's what I would call my version of scrapbooking. So that's everything from a random picture of the day with a little bit of a note to sticking in some coffee that I really liked, and, you know, tags from clothing, lots of pictures of food in here, to be honest, all the way to kind of full-on scrapbooking of holidays. So I don't do any kind of memory keeping anywhere else. It's all in here, which is why it's so chunky. And next year I am going to change up how I do my scrapbooking and commonplacing and separate it, because as it's got to the end of the year, I'm now struggling to write on some of these pages, so I am using it less and less, and it is now basically just for scrapbooking the rest of the year. And that is basically it for the cousin. Like I say, not much of a huge flip through because there is quite a lot of kind of personal information in there, but hopefully you get an idea of how I've used it. Sticking with Hobonichi, let's talk the weeks. So the Hobonichi Weeks is another planner that has been featured a lot on the channel. There are a lot of videos around this for this year, including full-on flips. So if you do want to see it in a bit more detail, there's a lot on there. I will leave as many links as I can. But this planner was, or rather still is, my main planner for the year. How I've used it has slightly changed over the year in terms of just around kind of locations of habit trackers, and some weeks I've done kind of little mini journaling or gratitude logging, or, you know, sticker of the day, again to use up some stickers. But effectively this has been my brain for the year. So all kinds of task planning, whether it be life, shop, YouTube, all goes in here. Habit tracking goes in here. Anything to do with kind of fitness logging, like I say, all lived in here. It's the only time that I haven't used it is during One Book July, which I'm going to cover soon when I talk about my bullet journals. But other than that, this has been my everything. It has lived on the desk and has always been my go-to. It has worked really well for me this year. I've really enjoyed it. This is probably, last year was the first year that I really kind of got the hang of using this planner and made it work for me, and I have just continued that through this year. As you can see, there are some weeks that I haven't used it, mainly when I've been on holiday. One thing to say, work planning doesn't go in here. That's a separate planner that lives at work and is effectively a bullet journal. But everything else has gone in here. The notes pages don't get used a huge amount, mainly for finance, which I won't share, but the rest of it is purely random notes and, you know, trying stickers and things like that. I don't use them a huge amount. I know some people like to bullet journal in those. When I've done bullet journaling, I have done them in the actual pages. I find it works quite well for that because I don't need to fill this with planning per se, so I can just kind of lay out my week there and then bullet journal my days on the right hand side. I really love doing that. But yeah, that's been my Hobonichi Weeks for this year. Okay, this next planner I am not going to talk about for very long because I was in it for all of 2 minutes, but I did want to mention it, and that is the A5 Lechterm. I had an itch to go back to bullet journaling after doing a bit in here, as you saw, and so decided to set this up. I hated the size, but I did like the concept, which is why I then moved into a A6 Lechterm for One Book July. Again, lots of videos on the setup and usage of this, so go check them out. I will leave some links if you are interested, but I absolutely adored this planner. I never thought I'd be much of a bullet journaler, but for some reason, me and this planner worked really well, to the point where I decided to experiment with One Book July and stayed in it all the way until I went on holiday in September, because I loved it that much. And I enjoyed the size. I enjoyed that it just fit in my bag. It was a soft cover, so I didn't have to worry about, you know, anything getting damaged. It was very pliable, and the paper takes fountain pen, takes normal pen, it doesn't smudge or smear, but it's quite thick in the sense that I can kind of quickly flick through pages and not accidentally rip them, unlike sometimes the Hobonichi. The only kind of downside to it really was having to write out my spreads. I absolutely hate doing that. It's the worst thing about bullet journaling, and if I was to go back to bullet journaling, I would need something with a pre-printed monthly, which is why I'm thinking, maybe a day-free Hobonichi A6 could potentially tick the boxes for me. TBC on that, but it's something that I am thinking about for next year. But yeah, I absolutely adore this planner. It comes with a pocket in the back, so for what I like to use, you know, my everyday carry for, I do like to use it as part purse, part planner. So with a sticky pocket in the front and the pocket at the back, I could actually carry cards and coupons and things, and all I needed to do was put in a pen loop and I basically had everything with me ready to go. I absolutely love this. It was a brilliant experiment. I am so glad I did it, and I highly recommend, if you are struggling with your planning and kind of finding out what works for you, definitely try a bullet journal for a month. Even if the bullet journal itself doesn't work, you'll probably work out quite quickly what you really truly need from a planner. Okay, finally we're going to talk Passport TM. I have been in this on and off for 18 months, and I'm in a bit of a quandary with this at the moment. So it was set up to be an everyday carry / purse because I needed a bit more space than just what I had before, which I can't even remember. I feel like at one point, it may have been last year's Hobonichi Weeks, I was using as an everyday carry and then had some pockets in there for cards, but it meant that I didn't really have any space for vouchers and things like that, and I was quite limited, and also this is quite big to carry, so I went and bought a Passport TN and bought the canvas insert that comes with the zip pocket and the kind of extra pockets, and then this gave me enough space for, you know, everything I needed purse wise. I then used a monthly insert from Traveller's Company because mainly that's all I need when I'm out and about. I just need kind of forward planning so that if someone wants to book something in or there's something work related, I can quickly look and go, okay, am I busy? Can I do it? It then just gives me space as well for some empty pages for kind of random notes or tasks or, you know, anything that might come up. I have kind of done a bit of full bullet journaling in this, kind of as a carry on from when this was One Book July, when I moved partially back into this in the weeks. I experimented with kind of using this as the bullet journal like I was there, but I found that this laid flat quite nicely, so I could just come home, leave it sat on the desk, and I felt kind of quite productive with it, whereas this, it doesn't lay flat that well, so kind of for leaving it sat on my desk, it didn't really work the same way as this, so it is just now kind of for random notes, but it just looks quite scruffy. It's just a dotted insert from Etsy. I like being able to have a fountain pen on me though, because all these pages work really well with fountain pen, and it's the Calico Sport is the perfect size, the Passport TN, so yeah, tick from that perspective. But I am just finding that actually, although I wanted more space, if I fill these too much, writing in these pages or even these pages ends up becoming a bit of a pain because it doesn't kind of lay flat against the chunk, which is part of the reason why I've been debating an A6 Hobonichi, so kind of going back to this kind of setup, but in something where the monthlies are pre-written for me. But yeah, I'm kind of still on the fence with that. I love the TN, I love the whole system, I love all the different accessories you can get for it, and you know, the fact that you can change it up from one month to the next, but I'm just finding that potentially I like the idea of it more than practicalities, and so next year this might become something different for me. Yeah, watch the space on that, not 100%. This has probably been really rambly, but hopefully you've got an overview of kind of how I've used it this year. So I hope that that was useful. It was a little bit rambly as I went along, I do apologise. Some of the things I've been thinking about kind of planner setups for next year have kind of thrown me a little bit, and that probably came through particularly when talking about this and this. But hopefully that was at least a good overview of the different planners I've used this year. As you can see, it's not been a crazy amount. I have had years where I've used a lot more than this. I've definitely had a better, more streamlined planning year. Next year though, I would quite like to get the number down. I'd love to be able to set up planners at the start of the year and see them through. Not sure that's going to happen, but we'll see. But if you do have any questions about any of the planners that I've used or shown, please just drop me a comment and stay tuned for setup videos for all of next year's planners coming in the next few weeks. Thanks, and I will see you in the next video.